the DSC9. Let's check it out. SCT out of Hudson, Wisconsin. They've been making Glock aftermarket parts, OEM parts, not only for handguns, but also for the AR-15. It's a full service manufacturing facility. And they've really gained popularity with their frames, their Glock compatible Gen 3 frames. These are very reasonable in price, but yet they have a lot of features to them. And now they're adding this rubber overmold inlay into the polymer, which really sets it apart. But they've just introduced their DSC9. Now SCT is St. Croix Tactical Solutions. They've been in business since 2013. And so this is really great to see another offering. Guys, I know that there are a lot of Glock clones out on the market, and really it just gives us a lot of choices. It allows you to perfect your preferences and how you like this pistol set up. But this is a very feature-rich pistol. In fact, it reminds me a lot of the Zev OZ9. Something about the way it feels and fits in my hand, and yet it costs about a third of the price. So we're going to take it out and test it. We're actually going to try a couple of more slides on here, especially if you want just the frame. But the quality is top-notch, and it is optics ready. We have suppressor height sights, and again we have that rubber overmold that really changes the game. Now personally, I had never heard of SCT, and they got in touch with me and wanted me to check out not only their frame, but also their new DSC9 pistol. And guys, I'm a huge fan of Glock, and so I love it when you can see upgrades to the original design and yet keep that simplicity. Well, SCT Manufacturing, or St. Croix Tactical Solutions. Again, based out of Hudson, Wisconsin. Everything's made right in the U.S. And of course, with their experience, we're going to look at these two items, the frame and their new DSC9 pistol. So we're going to talk first about the frame, and then we're going to go into the pistol and really go into the slide, because the frames are both. Now, they do make a number of different models of frame. They make just a shell that's no parts installed, and you can install your own parts. There's a lot of Glock aftermarket parts out there, so it just gives you a base, and it's very reasonable. Then you can go to the full-on parts installed, ready to go, just throw on your slide and barrel slide assembly. And then they do this new overmold. Now, this is something that is really different in the market. I've never seen it. But the frames are actually relief cut out, and then the rubber overmold is like injected around it. And so it gives you a solid, all the way around grip. It's seamless. And so there's not going to be any breaking points. What this does, it gives you shock absorption. It gives you a non-slip surface, which is obvious, I mean, with the rubber overmold, and then it's vibration dampening. Now, a lot of times people put hoe grips over the top or Talon grips, and those are great, but they're not part of the frame. And while I've used those for a number of years, this just gives you something completely different where it is locked in. And the texturing is very well done. As you can see on the sides, it has your standard texturing. I mean, it looks like that laser etched texturing, but it's just rubber. And then here we have line serrations on the back and on the front. And it really does feel good in your hand. So it's going to give you that really solid purchase on the grip and that back and front strap. The sides are going to keep you from adjusting and canting. And then it goes to the frame. And really, if you don't want the overmold setup, you can get just the standard frame with really aggressive texturing here. But one thing that I really like up front is you have your pads, your indexing pads. And one is to get your trigger finger and give you a memory pad to put that finger whenever you finish firing. What I really like is the thumb ledge, where you can just take your thumb, get that hands high grip, and it allows you to really get a good recoil management setup. And one thing I like about this is a lot of times, because of this texturing, it kind of adheres to it. So even when firing, your thumb is not as out to come off. So this just allows you to press down and to be able to keep your recoil at a minimum. But we also have that same texturing here around your slide stop. And so that's just a little fence that's going to kind of keep and block that. And then we have some smooth sides here for your shooting finger and your thumb to come in, and it just makes it more comfortable. Now it has a really nice deep undercut. And then it has a second undercut under the trigger guard, which is really the proper way to do it. Because if you cut here to get that Glock knuckle and to get your hand really up high on the frame, you can change your point of aim if this is not cut as well. So this just allows you to get into that natural point of aim and to be able to fire the gun. Also, there are serrations on the trigger guard, both front and underneath, and then it has a small little nub that comes out, plus there's a little bit of one right here. And so that just really gives it a good feel. And if you're a guy who likes to put your finger around the trigger guard, then this is going to be a good one for you because it has those serrations. Now, especially if you have bigger hands, that can be one place that some guys do. For me, I shoot just like this, thumbs forward, up high. We have a 4-slot Picatinny rail, and the polymer itself is a proprietary polymer that, honestly, this is more to me like the standard Glock pistol as far as the quality of the material. Sometimes with the Glock compatible pistols, they can be a little rough. This has a really nice finish to it. The lines are burnished or chamfered, and so it makes it really comfortable in the hand, and it doesn't feel cheap. Now, speaking of cheap, you can buy just the shell, and then you can add your own parts. Or you can get it just like this, where it's fully assembled, ready for your slide assembly to go right on. Now, this does have your standard Gen 3 magazine release, and so it's not switchable to the other side. And it also has a polymer trigger with the little blade safety. But there are some things about the interior which they have upgraded just to make this a smoother slide to frame fit, a better trigger pull. So first off, they have polished the trigger bar. They polished a lot of the parts right here with the connector and everything. So this just gives it a more of a smoother trigger pull. Also, the locking block, which is stainless, and it has an electroless nickel finish on it, and so does the trigger bar, just to give it some more smoothness. And of course, your rails and your slide rails are also overmolded with stainless steel. So it gives it a very smooth finish. You can feel how smooth that is. And it's one of the things, I've done this a number of times, is taking my internals and I've just given it a nice little polish, and man, it does make a difference. This is the 3-pin system, which is Glock 1, 2, and 3 generation compatible. The magazine well has been flared, and they do offer a mag well, an extended mag well, but it needs to be from SCT to be able to fit properly. But overall, these have been very popular with people that are building Glocks. And they not only make the compact size, they also make the full size for the Glock 17, and they make frames for the Glock 43. And these are not available directly at SCT. You have to go to the different distributors, and there's a number of different companies, Brownells, Aim Surplus, that carry these a full line. But again, the overmold frames are new from SCT, but they still offer just the standard texturing of the grip, and again, guys, they're very reasonable. Then we have the DSC9. Now we're gonna go ahead and make sure the gun's unloaded. You do get a Magpul magazine with it, and the gun is empty. First off, the slide, very well done. It's 416 stainless steel. It's been heat treated to 40 to 42 Rockwell hardness, has a black nitride finish on it. And so it has a really nice, impervious to the elements. All of the angles have been smoothed out. There's no sharp angles except at the serrations. And we do have these forward directional serrations that really are very effective. They don't really bunch up, and it doesn't scream serrations. It's almost blended in, but it definitely has a really nice grip to it, and the slide has been just trimmed right here. It's been beveled across from the front to the back on both sides. At the front, we also have beveling, which just makes this a little bit easier to enter into holsters. And one thing that I like, and this is something about the frame I forgot to mention, is there are serrated lines on the beaver tail. Now that beaver tail allows you to get your hand, again, really high up, and it's going to be a little bit better than your standard Glock. But these serrations actually cut down on the glare. Another cool thing about this slide is that it has these cuts and they're angled upward. And when you're looking at your sight, the point comes right at the right spot to be able to line up your sights. So it's almost just an indicator to point to your sights as you're bringing them up. Now this does have the 1/3 co-witness sights, has serrations on the back, and then here at the front, we're just blacked out. Of course, this being Glock compatible, there's a bazillion different offerings out there to put whatever sights you want. And it is optics ready. This is the Armor footprint, and it has stabilizing posts underneath, and we'll take a quick look at that. And this is stainless steel as well. Now the barrel has these cuts, and it's kind of angled on either side. This is a proprietary setup from SCT, and they actually match with the serrations going in the same direction. The barrel's been crowned. It is flush fit, and again, you do have those areas that kind of back off just a touch, and it knocks off a little bit of that blocky look that the Glock typically has. The striker is 9310 billet, and so that's going to give you a lot of strength. It's not going to be susceptible to breakages like your standard striker. And we have 2 ports that are lightning cuts just at the front of the slide on either side of your front sight. And on the DSC9, we do have the mag well that's been installed. And so it gives you a lot of room to be able to get those magazines, and it's going to make up for any kind of mistakes when you're trying to aim for that mag well. And then here with the original, I mean, it's beveled and you can get to it. So one thing I like about this is not too obtrusive. Sometimes some of these mag wells are huge, and I guess some guys like them. Maybe they can rest their hand a little better, but this does give you that feel when you grip it. It does kind of push a little bit here and allows you to get a really high grip on the handgun. And we have an extended slide stop on the DSC9. Okay, here we have a Glock 19 Gen 3 slide assembly, and just goes right over the rails. And you know, while the Glock slide fits well and you can go with this setup, I mean, just the advantages of this frame are going to give you a lot more than your standard Glock, especially Gen 3. But again, if you want to have your optics ready cut, you want to do slide serrations, you can do all that, or you can buy an aftermarket slide. And you know, there's a lot of things that you can do with the Glock pistol because there are so many aftermarket parts out there. And I think having a base of this frame is just a great way to go, and really will save you a lot from having to go to a gunsmith or someone that does a lot of frame work and then doing a lot of cuts. One of the things I've always noticed when there's a lot of texturing that's been done, a lot of stippling, is that after a while, if this gun is used quite a bit, the stippling starts just to wear. It just wears out and you start getting smooth spots. One thing I like about this rubber overmold is it's going to give you a good solid fit, and again, it fits into the frame itself. And so it's not going to be on the outside peeling off and things like that. Now they do make this in a FDE, of course, the black. They make it in a sniper gray, and they also make it in an olive drab. Now we're going to take a look at this a little bit closer during disassembly, but you'll notice that the barrel does have fluting. And again, with those cuts that are already on the chamber, I mean, it really makes this look really custom. And that's one of the things about a handgun like this is, while it has all the Glock reliability and it's very simple, there are upgrades to this that are just going to be able to take you to the next level. Now, I've been shooting Glock 19s since they came out, and I have over 100,000 rounds through the Glock 19. So when I pick up a pistol, I can just shoot it, but this just gives me more ergonomics. It gives me a better feel to it, and I have, for gross motor skills, a lot of things that I'm just not going to have on my standard Glock frame. I mean, here is my Glock Gen 3 frame. And you can see, I mean, these have served me well for a number of years. But the texturing is definitely pretty weak. Here we've got a little bit better on the front and back. And of course, you have your finger grooves. You can see where I have undercut here and not here. So this was because the more I shot, the more my knuckle got that Glock knuckle. And it just wore it out. Also, the trigger guard on the SCT has been expanded just a little bit. And that allows you to get gloved hands a little easier in here. It comes down just a touch. And so that's another one of the features. Again, there's so many different upgrades to this over your standard Glock frame, which really make this very appealing. And again, the 4 pick rails instead of just the 1 Glock rail. It just gives you more real estate to be able to set that light wherever you want it to get it into that right position. I mean, the Glock pistol is just a tool, and it's very utilitarian, but man, it works. But the big secret for the Glock is its simplicity. And so this just gives you simplicity and then with upgrades. All right, let's look at the trigger. We have one of the blade safeties, which you have to depress the trigger. One of the pluses for this blade safety is that it makes this drop safe because the trigger can't engage unless it's pulled back. And so here we're going to pull this back to the rear and we hit a wall. Now you can feel a little bit of the trigger bar, which is typical for your Glock. But right here, we hit a wall. Really a nice break. It's a touch spongy, which is typical for your Glock, but a lot less than what I've seen in others, unless it's an aftermarket Glock trigger. Right there's your reset. So very quick. Not a bad trigger pull. Now let's check out the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 4 pounds, 10.9 ounces. 5 pounds, 1.3 ounces. So around 5 pounds. Your typical Glock is about 5.5 pounds. And on the SCT website, it says this is usually about 5.5 pounds, but I could tell this was a little bit of a lighter trigger. Definitely an improvement over the Glock trigger. It's still a Glock trigger, but it's much smoother and not near as spongy. A big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring our ammo, all made in the USA, one of the biggest suppliers of ammunition in the country. Also a big thanks to Lula Loaders, just making range day a lot easier. And the weight on the DSC9, 23.17 ounces. Weight on the Glock 19 Gen 3, 23.97 ounces. Well guys, SCT, this is a company that creates OEM parts for a number of different companies, and they decided to go out on their own. I love seeing that. It just gives us a lot of choices. One thing about the SCT is this polymer grip. Now you can get it without it, but this really is something I've never seen with it embedded into the frame. And it definitely helps get a better grip. It helps with a little bit of shock absorption, and it's just a lot of good texturing. The frame itself, I love the recoil reducing shelves on each side. Love the undercut. I mean, it just sets up for a great feel to it. It still has the Glock angle, but it doesn't have the bump at the end. No finger grooves, and I love this mag well. It just really fits into your hand very well. They have improved the trigger. Polished disconnector, the trigger bar has been polished. It's just a little bit smoother. I feel like it's an improvement over your standard Glock trigger. And of course the sights are not really suppressor height, but that 1/3 co-witness, and it is optics ready. But the sights themselves have some serrations on them, but it just helps to cut down the glare. They're just black, but they really show up well. It's a good contrast. But definitely the undercut keeps you from getting that Glock knuckle. It's been totally reliable. That last round just kind of hung up. But overall, I mean, this has been a great little shooter. And guys, it's just giving us more and more choices. There's so many people buying the Glocks and they're tricking them out. They're spending a lot of money. And this just gives you really a better option right out of the box. You don't have to wait for a turnaround. And really, you can just buy the frame, throw in your Gen 3 slide, you're ready to go. Or you can go with the SCT slide system, which is really excellent. Now, because you can get the frame separately, we're going to try a couple of Glock slides, one Gen 3 OEM slide, and then one of the Strike Industries light slides. We put on the factory Glock Gen 3 Model 19 slide on the SCT frame. Just going to see if it functions. I mean, it went on very easily. I'm just going to test it out. Works like a champ. Now we're going to try out the Strike Industries light slide, which is Glock Gen 3 compatible. Beautiful. Now for disassembly, drop our magazine, check the chamber, the gun's empty. Go ahead and pull your trigger, pull back on your slide, and pull down on these two takedown tabs. And then just push the slide forward. We have our recoil spring and guide rod, and we have our barrel. Again, a little bit closer look. It's fluted, and you have those cuts at the chamber. I mean, it's a nice looking barrel. A little bit of a step right there. And again, we have that crowned barrel at the end. I mean, this is going to preserve your accuracy. Machining is none. I mean, this thing looks beautiful. There's no machining marks, there's no chatter, there's nothing. I mean, it is a very smooth finish. And that's nice on the inside. That tells you a lot about quality as well. Here on the frame, you can see the polish. And these again have been polished just like with the other frame. And at the range, it was really uber reliable, which it just took from that Glock design. And it's one of the beautiful things about a Glock. It's just simple. Now, I was getting the bag ready and happened to come across this threaded barrel, which I had not seen before, or we would have done a little testing. We have a nice thread protector. It does have a rubberized gas stick or silicone seal, and that's going to keep that thread protector locked on. But here, we're going to go ahead and put this in so we can check it out. So now we have a threaded barrel, and we can add a suppressor. The barrels will be available separately, and so you can have a threaded barrel if you want, and then of course you can keep that thread protector on there to keep it protected. But we have to take the thread protector off to disassemble. But with suppressors getting more and more popular, having threaded barrels is just a no-brainer, and great to see that they have that same barrel system in this pistol. And for reassembly, we're going to drop in our barrel, recoil spring. I guess I kind of did that with the threaded barrel. We're doing it again. Test for function, and we're back in business. Now, keeping your firearms maintained and cleaned is vital. Otis makes some of the best cleaning equipment out there. They make a number of different kits that are dedicated for different rifles, pistols. They also have Shooter's Choice, which makes excellent CLP and bore solvent and different cleaning materials. The Ripcord is one of their signatures, and there's a whole system based around it. They are suppliers to the U.S. military. So check out Otis Technologies, highly recommended, and we want to thank Otis for being a sponsor of the channel. A really nice touch is the Savior 2-pistol case that comes with it, and these are solid. I have one of these. I love it. I mean, Savior makes some really great products. We have some Velcro field here, and it comes with your Velcro patch. Also, we have nice solid grab handles, and these are corded and padded. And then we have double paracord pulls or double pulls all the way around it. Even lockable on the side. Now here in the front, we have some pouches. These look like maybe AR pouches, and then some others that are a little bit smaller here on the end, maybe for pins and things. This is more of an admin area, but it does have some padding in the front, so you could actually slip a firearm in this itself. And then we have double pulls here, and we have magazine compatibility, and this is really nice, which is typical for a Savior. On this side, we have an open case. This is padded very well. And then on this side, we have another one. So we can put actually 3 handguns in here if we want to, and maybe even one in the middle. But this is a super nice case, and really, these are not super cheap. These are very quality, well made. So this is a big plus. Okay guys, as far as price, for just the strip frame, they're running $59. If you get it with the parts already installed, it's $99. And guys, just the parts themselves run close to that. So that would really, to me, be a great option, unless you want to take the existing parts you have and put it in a strip frame. And again, this takes Glock 1, 2, and 3 Gen parts, is compatible with all those. If you want to get just the frame with the Overmold, it's $179.99. So this has a considerable jump, but this has been milled into a recessed cavity that allows for this to be injected just around the frame, which is something I've never seen before. So I think this is pretty cool. So why not just get the real thing if the price is pretty close to the same? Well, first off, I think that this is a very utilitarian handgun. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people do a lot of upgrading to these handguns. The finish on the frame is not that textured. You do have the finger grooves. You do have a little bit of a bump here that you're not going to have on your DSC9. And of course, all the texturing and a lot of the upgrades just with the frame, the undercut, the Picatinny rail, the rubberized molded grip, or if you just want just the texturing, again, that's available as well. And then you got your slide, which you don't have front cocking serrations. You'll have to have an RMR cut or some kind of optics cut. And, you know, there are a lot of things that you're getting that's going to be a huge upgrade with the DSC9. And really, for probably a little less money than you're going to pay for just a plain Glock. I mean, one of the things about it, you send this off and it's going to cost you quite a bit and you have to wait. And that to me is just, you know, balancing these two out to decide. Maybe the Glock is fine the way it is. I mean, for me, I'm a big fan of just the Glock. I've shot these for years, so I'm very accustomed to them. But there are some things that are lacking that would be nice to be upgraded. And I think that the DSC9 brings that to the table. While they've been in business since 2013, they do make a lot of aftermarket and OEM parts for a lot of different manufacturers. This is not as tested as your standard Glock 19. But there are new guns that show up every day all over the country. And from the reputation that SCT has and for the reliability and the experience we had, this is just a really solid handgun. So guys, if you love Glock reliability and you love the simplicity of a very proven design, so check out the DSC9. It gives you a lot of features that are very reasonable. And really, with their frames, they have become very popular, and so it's really nice to see them put the package together. Guys, again, there's a blue bazillion different Glock clones out there, but that just gives us more choices. It allows us to get our preferences down. And with the optics ready, the suppressor height sights, that inlay, that rubber inlay, that is really cool. It feels really good in your hand, and it just gives you that experience of the Glock reliability, and yet we have a lot of upgrades. And again, a big thank you to SCT for sending the DSC9 and their SCT frame. Again, giving us a lot of choices. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. And it's one of the reasons why it stood the test of time. This is very well done, and you know, it's just very well done. And I got to get on my groove here. I got to get on my groove. Guys, I know there's a lot of Glock clones out there, but this really, okay, I want to start that all over again. Since 2013, I'm going to talk about all that before now. Well guys, STC, SCT, STC, STC, CTS, SCT Manufacturing, St. Croix Tactical Solutions. There are a number of different options that have come out, you know, in that Glock clone world. Glock clone world. Okay, let's do that over again. Lord have mercy. What the heck? What kind of crap